fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're all fired. All four are fired. You're fired.
I didn't want you to.
Fired.
Today I walk in, I hear I'm going to fire him. I'm not firing him. I think he's a wonderful guy.
Should you have fired Fauci?
So a lot of people ask me that question, and I did it right. Because if you do fire him, you're going to have a firestorm on the left again.
Why did you feel unable to fire Fauci?
First of all, you're not allowed to.
Every time he goes on television, there's always a bomb, but there's a bigger bomb if you fire him.
Frankly, you can't win that one. If I would have done it, I would have taken heat.
The DeSantis war room. And by the way, the back end of that graphic there had a red alligator eating the logo, because if you're gonna vote for someone for president, it should be about a red alligator eating a logo. Side notes. Let's get to the main crux of this whole thing. Donald Trump found himself, I guess, in a bit of a weak spot when it comes to Dr. Fauci, of course. The head of at least the conversations about what happened with COVID-19. Ron DeSantis wants to point out how cozy and snuggly Donald Trump was with Ron DeSantis. I'm sorry, with Dr. Fauci. Before it was Ron DeSantis, now it's Dr. Fauci. How could they pass on these cuddly pictures of everything that went down? Here's the tweet actually from the DeSantis war room that nailed him down on this weakness. They pointed out Trump became a household name by firing countless people on television in parentheses. But when it came to Fauci, this is apparently what he did. But of course, a bunch of readers then pointed this out because this feature on Twitter allows them to point out that the 3 still shots showing Trump embracing Fauci are actually what? AI generated. I guess those cozy pictures are something that you have to come up with in order to make your point now when it comes to 2023 presidential politics, specifically from the Republican side. Let's dig into that a little bit though, because of these 6 images, 3 of them were fake as hell. See if you guys can figure it out. Maybe we should run a little bit of Jeopardy music. I mean, unless they sue us over that. But see if you can figure it out, you guys. What one particular article from The Verge then pointed out was it was the top left. See if you guys keep score at home if you were able to identify the AI generated fake ass images. Top left, bottom middle, and bottom right. I think the most snuggly versions of all those pictures are the ones that they faked. So these 3 show, by the way, when there's a reverse search of these on Google, there's no results on that. And the number of these tells also show this as well. I'm glad that this particular article pointed out. Let's look a little closer at that first one on the top left. This one has Trump snuggled up with one Dr. Fauci. His hair looks pretty similar, but there's a little bit of lack of detail to it. But then if you look at that presidential seal, that's really where this pointed out, where it really showed up as to how fake it could be. Look at the bottom right of this image. That usually says the White House. I'm not sure which language the AI generated computer thought it was gonna be, but they figured who cares? It's a bunch of idiots that are gonna be watching these ads anyway. Who knows? Who cares if we've seen these images before? We just wanna fool you into voting for us. Apparently no principles there at all. By the way, when asked about these images, if they were AI generated, Matt Walking, who's a spokesperson for the Never Back Down PAC, one that supports DeSantis, he declined to answer, and this is what he said instead. You'll have to ask the campaign. Sounds like yeah, it's fake and I can't say it out loud. So after the story is also published though, DeSantis's aide, Christina Pushaw, she's a part of the rapid response team for the Florida governor, and she tweeted out a screenshot that Trump shared. This is in response to them asking her, so are these images fake? You work for DeSantis and you're on the rapid response team. Can you rapidly respond as to how fake these images could be? And instead, she posted this tweet. I think this might be an AI generated image. Who knows? Well, I think that's one of those pretty obvious. I would call that more Photoshop than AI generated, but who knows? The one thing we definitely know is Ron DeSantis has never been out in the middle of a field somewhere in Montana riding a rhino. So it's pretty obvious that it was a joke. Now, if she responded and said, yeah, it's pretty obvious that all those 3 pictures of Dr. Fauci snuggled up with President Trump are fake and we were just having some fun and we put at the bottom fake AI generated images, then maybe she'd have a leg to stand on. But the problem is that's not what they're looking for. They're looking to lie to people quite purposely, because have you seen them come clean yet? There's a reason why we also know this is because they did it to Joe Biden and also Kamala Harris. But this was, I believe, from the RNC. They did the same. Remember the beginning of this ad that they ran?
We can now call the 2024 presidential race for Joe Biden.
My fellow Americans.
Who's in charge here? It feels like the train is coming off the track.
The train that's definitely coming off the tracks is our propensity to lie. It's constant. It's gotten worse. Now it's image related, verbally and sound related. I'm not trying to stack one of these guys against the other, because as we know, they're both deplorable human beings and they're both looking to destroy the country for their own benefit, between DeSantis and Trump. But the one thing that they're definitely ratcheting up, which has been a couple months since people were starting to talk about these instances of AI generated things to fool people into having a belief system, is that they just kind of don't care anymore. And when someone asks them, they just say, I can't answer that question. I guess you're gonna have to check out with the campaign. And then you ask the campaign and they post something about Ron DeSantis riding on a rhinoceros, because that's also something that people would believe is happening. But what they will believe is that Dr. Fauci and Trump were all snuggled up, and President Trump was saying all the things that Dr. Fauci was advising him to talk about. Apparently, Dr. Fauci is the one that told him to talk about hydroxychloroquine. And Fauci was one that was telling him to, hey, let's shush on the testing. And if we don't test enough, then there won't be any positive results for COVID. All these things apparently Dr. Fauci was doing because they were snuggled up together. What you're discovering now is between these two again, between the attacks that have gone back and forth, there's about 0.5% of substance to any of it. And it oddly came from that guy with the weird hair in the middle, when talking about Social Security and the way the rest of the Republican Party would like to cut it, and any other kind of things that the vast majority of Americans are actually very jazzed about keeping around, and if nothing else, expanding to other folks as well. Healthcare, Social Security, all those normal benefits that people would normally be used to. But let's just go with some fakeness instead. It's the position that we find ourselves in this political climate. You know what? Actually, I'm not even going to put it past Democrats to do something like this next, because now that the playing field has gotten to this point and people start making their decisions based off of these blatant lies, I think there's going to be a definite percentage of anybody from any side of the aisle to think we might as well do it too, because now we're losing on that front. Be prepared for that.